What's up, you guys? Marty Schwartz here with Marty Music, and I'm going to break down the basic concepts of what's called the CAGED system, the CAGED method. It's very fancy sounding, but it's just one of the many ways to approach understanding the fretboard on the guitar, understanding the neck, accessing all the different chord voicings, but also melodies and arpeggios based on these shapes as well. It's a real game changer. The more you start to understand this stuff, you will definitely get better at guitar. Now, I'm going to, spend some time explaining it all just step by step, but I also have an entire course that's like multiple hours long on this very concept. You can get that at martymusic.com and check it out. Also, I got a bunch of bonus features, including the free chord and scale book, which has all the diagrams you would ever need for the foundation of guitar. I recommend you get that in the link below. And enough of that. We'll just learn some of this stuff right now. Here we go. All right, the CAGED method was something that I learned before it was really called the CAGED method. The CAGED method, I think the term itself has gotten a lot more popular with the digital age and the internet because it's a real, spicy word that's great for marketing. But really, it's just one of many concepts and approaches to understanding the fretboard. And it's not just chord based, but it's based on the chords C, or the chord shapes, the C shape, and that spells out the word caged, the A shape, the G, the E, and the D. Those are basic chord shapes. And if you've ever played a bar chord, you're actually already using the CAGED method. So that's what I mean as far as it being just kind of a spicy marketing term, but a great concept nonetheless. So one of the first approaches to that is the E shape, because it's one of the first bar chords we learn. And so what we're doing with the CAGED method, or the CAGED system, CAGED system for men. I'm a member, but it's when you take, let's just start with an E major chord. But let's pretend that I had to play the E major chord with these fingers, and pretend that I had to press down behind the nut here to get the open strings that are part of that chord. Oops, here we go. And the open strings are the E string, the B string, and then the high E string. So that's already the CAGED system right there. I'm using the E shape of the CAGED method. And I'm going to keep going here. So in music, on any instrument, E up to F, on the piano, on a saxophone, on anything, E to F is always a half step. So one note up, one fret up. So if that's E and I want to play F major and I have that, then I just slide it up. Now that's an F major chord using the E shape with the E root. Now F to G is a whole step. So if I move that up a whole step, that's now G. G to A is a whole step, so that's A major. A to B is a whole step, so that's B major. B to C is the other spot where it's a half step. So here's C. Okay, move it up a whole step. And now it's D major. Move it up another whole step, we're back at E again. Half step to F, whole step to G. So here's an example. If I play a C major chord with the E-shaped bar chord, yeah, we're referring to CAGED right now, but using that same system, like I can play a triad from the E shape, or I can play this triad, or this triad. Right? I can play a power chord from that. I can also play a minor chord from that. Instead of the E major shape, I play the E minor shape. So there's C minor. Also, real quick, I didn't play the in-betweens, so if that's G and that's A, that is A flat or G sharp. It's got two names. There's other reasons for that, okay? So that's already just learning one bar chord is learning the caged. If you really want to learn the caged, you're already doing it. Check this out. If I play a D major chord, it's got one open string in there, the open D. But let's just omit that open D and just play the top three strings, the G, B, and high E. That same concept's going to work. D to E is a whole step, so now this is an E major triad. Let's just test it. So you hear that sound? I'll play an E major and see if they're the same chord. They are. Now, they're different voicings in a different range. This is all an octave higher, but it's still the same notes. I can even prove it to you. That's a B, that's an E, and that's a G sharp. It's the only three notes of an E major chord. Any other E major chord I know should still be just combinations of B's, E's, and G sharps. Let's try it with the basic E chord. All six strings. It's going to be an E, a B, or a G sharp. Check it out. E, B, E again, G sharp, B, and E. So I was right. Okay, so caged, that's an E major using the D shape. But it's not just for chords. From that D shape, visualizing it, I can play an arpeggio. But I can also build an arpeggio off this shape for E major. So we've already nailed two of the letters of the word caged, right? The A, we've used all the time in our bar chords as well. You have the A chord. So open A string, and then the open high E. So if I had to pretend that I needed to press behind the nut to get those open strings as well, then I would most likely have to use three fingers like that, or one finger across that D, G, and B to play an A major chord. As I slide it up, typically my index finger just mutes that high E string when I play this chord without even trying. But A, up a whole step would be B. And then half step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, just to go back to that E chord, right? Now, if I played an A minor shape, it becomes a minor chord, but it's still from the A shape, an A minor shape now. So E on the A string with a corresponding A shape. So if I do the A major shape, it's E major. If I do E with the A minor shape, it's now E minor. If I go a half step down, that's E flat minor or D sharp minor. Now from that, I can play triads. Let's go to E minor. I can play triads, power chord. I can play off of that shape. I can learn how to play arpeggios. That was a different arpeggio, but just to play a melody there. Then I can learn to play arpeggios around that. Which is really great for chord tones of a chord progression. what I just did there was built off of those chord shapes in the position. So that's the A shape. So E shape and A shape are used the most because they're the traditional bar chords we learn. And then the A shape. All built off that. So what we haven't done though in the movable shapes, because I did the E, I did the A, and I did the D, and I showed you some very practical approaches for those. But so that's 3 letters of the word cage. There's 2 missing, C and G. Now, and then also the D shape, there's an element of the D shape as well that I'll break down. Because I was just doing the 3 notes, not including the, right? And also the reason it's spelled caged is because that's the order of the corresponding shapes. I'm going to show you that in 1 second here. Let me just show you the C chord here. Yeah, let's just do it. So C. And if I spelled the word caged out, the next letter is A, right? So that's the next voicing from C. Watch this, C, and then so the C shape of C. You know, there could be the C shape of G, etc. But I'm doing an open C chord. I'm going to spell the word cage now real quick. C. The next one up is the A shape. The next one is G, which is, I don't usually play it a full bar chord with the G shape, but this is what it is. Look. Can you see what's going on there? It's a G shape, but with the 3rd, middle, and pinky. And if I had to pretend to stretch back here to get the open strings, it's very tricky. And my fingers aren't very long. I was just born with them at this length. But if I moved it up a whole step, I got to stretch back here to cover the open strings. So that's an A major chord using the G shape. B major using the G shape. C major using the G shape. D major using the G shape. Etc. So C, A, and then G looks like this. So I just did the first 3 chords of the cage, or the first 3 voicings of caged. The C shape, the A shape, and now the G shape. So that is the G-shaped movable bar chord, which I never play that full chord like that. What I would play is this, what I call the Hendrix major chord, which is also an inversion of this. You could think of it that way. But really what you're doing is you're playing this full G-shaped bar chord, but then I'm just, because that's not comfortable for my hand. I've seen guitar players use it comfortably. I don't. My fingers aren't long enough for that to just be a natural part of my playing. And what I do is I just forget the low E and the high E, and I just play this part of it. And now we have what's called the 3rd as the lowest note of the chord, which has a really cool sound. It's still a C major chord, but then what I do is I just switch to my 3rd finger, and then to Hendrixify it, I can hammer that. I also have the full major pentatonic underneath. You can see that note is from that G shape. Look here. So you could do that for it and just forget trying to reach that. But what I normally would do is something like this. sus4s right there. So if I wanted to play the E major chord with the G shape, it does have the root on the E string. So forget the low E and put my third finger there instead. Take the pinky off. What's cool about the E chord for the G shape is that you can use the open E. But that's where you get Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles right there. A lot of other things. So we have, now I'm going to go back to a C major chord and play through the caged. C, A, G, oops, sorry, up here. C shape, A shape, G shape, caged. So E is next. E shape, we know that one already, C. We only have one left, D. And so we're trying to play a C major chord. And you can hear the voicings change even though it's the same chord. Now, the D shape for that, what we would really do for the caged, because the D chord has that open D, so if I had to pretend that I needed a finger to get that open D back here, I'd have to play middle finger, third finger, pinky, and get my index back here like this. Once again, not a super comfortable position, but that'd be how you would do it. So an E major with the full caged. And you can put the fifth in the bass here. And for this one, you could have the open E too. But let's go back to that. F is here. G is here. They get easier as you go up. A, B, C. So there's the C chord. So C, A, G shape, E shape, and then the D shape. Now, I don't play this chord this way at all. I usually will just play the triad. So what I just did there was played the cage, but just the top three strings. So the last thing I'll talk about is the movable C shape, because that's quite tricky. If I had to pretend to put my index finger down and still play a C chord, it would look like that. But now it's totally movable. If I move it up here, it's now a D major. And that's what's used in Under the Bridge, he's using that. A lot of guitar players will use this. John Mayer will use it. So that's D, E, half step to F, full step to G, A, B, etc. But what I do for the C shape is kind of like what I do for the G shape. I just don't play the A string, and then that really opens up a bunch of stuff you can do with your fingers. So if I wanted to play an E major chord using the C shape, it looks like that. But if I remove my pinky, now I've got a much more comfortable thing for my hand. And then I don't bar anymore, I just play the G string. And I play it as a triad. The D, G, and B string. And so what I like about this is I can add these great embellishments here, which are very Hendrix sounding as well. So I just played the exact same notes in a different spot. So the more you can visualize those, the more you can really open up your knowledge of the fretboard. That was 20 minutes of instruction. So hopefully you can watch this multiple times and it'll help kind of fill some gaps for you and help you understand the guitar a little bit more. I hope it helped. All right, I hope that was helpful to you. I think there was some really good information in there. Don't forget, I have an entire course on this stuff that will walk you through it step by step. Nice and slow through a progression, curriculum, if you will, over at martymusic.com. So links below for that, as well as links for bonus stuff that's free, like my Ultimate Guitar Guide, which has every diagram you would need for the foundation of guitar. Highly recommend you getting that. It'll be very helpful. And thanks for supporting Marty Music, martymusic.com, all that stuff. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you so much, and hope to see you again real soon. Take care now.